Oh, wait a second. I think I see one right now. Yeah, in the back with the backpack and the headphones. Wait a second. They're Snapchatting, they're texting, they're listening to music, and they're working. I think we need to get them. If it is one thing we should learn after all the discussion and after all the research that's been done, is we should stop treating millennials like zoo animals. So how do we attract and retain top millennial talent, especially if we come from a large, traditional, structured corporate environment? Well, the short answer is we change. And you know what? It's really hard. But let me cut to the punchline. I have seen this done. I have seen companies embrace a new way of working, and that workplace is better for all of us. So when we're talking about this new generation, largely going to be the most populous part of the work generation, what exactly is this new generation looking for? They're vibrant, they're energetic, they are looking for stability. What? They're looking for stability? You know, maybe I didn't read the title of this presentation right, but it says they don't want to work for us, meaning they don't want to work for traditional, big, structured companies. But if you read this snippet of research, one of the things millennials are concerned with in their career are things like benefits and retirement plans. I can think of nothing more corporate or structured than those two things. So why is that? Well, you have to understand how millennials tend to view life. They view life as an experience. It's a series of adventures. And you know what? Their career is a platform, a stable platform from which they can jump in and dive into all these experiences. So keep that in context as we continue this discussion. They want freedom. They want freedom to do things, to experience life, but also freedom in process and in place. So a quick sidebar. I think we should all as a group here at Pivot agree that we should no longer say millennials are not goal-oriented. Those of us that have worked with them know they are. But here's the thing. They don't want you to tell them exactly how to accomplish the goal. If you give a millennial a paint-by-numbers approach, they are likely going to step back and reinvent a new way of counting. And I think that's great. You know, as employers, why don't we embrace that creativity? Why don't we enable that freedom from process and freedom from place? Or, you know, if I was a millennial, which I know that's a tough visual, 20 years younger, better teeth, but go with me here. I would say something to the effect of, you know what? I have grown up digital. I have grown up social. I have been completely transparent in my life and my work. Why can't you manage me that way? And my 41-year-old self steps back and says, you know, that's a good point. So how do we adopt these command and control hierarchical structures in our companies to embrace this new generation? Well, first and foremost, it's about feedback. Millennials crave feedback. One other side note. Has anyone heard the term millennial and entitled used in the same sentence? I think we have. There's been a lot said. And I think part of the reason is a misinterpretation of quotes such as this one. I could easily see someone sitting in an office chair reading that going, millennials, they expect to be promoted every year. Well, you know what? That's an inappropriate interpretation. Let me read that a different way. You know what? I'm passionate about my career. I want to make a difference. I want to try new things. And I want to learn from you. I want to get feedback. I want this to be an iterative process. You know, the other part of this, and it's a little complex, the other part of this is that you have to start thinking what that means of the things we're going to change in corporate America. So the worst thing you can do for a millennial is to let them go down a certain path and then at the very end of it tell them, you're wrong. You failed. Does that remind you of anything? It reminds me of the annual review process. It reminds me of corporate reviews. Does anyone like corporate reviews? No. Can we all agree to get rid of those? The reason is they're not immediate, and oftentimes, you know what? They're not always fair. And if there is one characteristic of this generation, they stand for fairness and equality. Now, this statistic is about brand image. When you look at a company, how do you determine the worth of its image? By the way employees are treated? That's a different mindset, and a very important mindset for millennials. And you know, why do you think that is? Well, you have to look at what they grew up with. They grew up with terrorism. Terrorism is not fair. They grew up watching their parents be downsized, be laid off. That is not fair. They grew up watching women do the same job, often better, for less money. Not fair. And I have a prediction. If there is one generation that is going to bridge this equality gap, it is this generation. And I hope they do. The reason I think they have this potential is because millennials care. This statistic is not about philanthropy. This was asking people about innovation. What is the importance of your company being innovated? And you know what they answered? 71% said to help improve society. So, how do we, as people who are here at Pivot, who want to be the change and not just watch it happen, how do we change our corporate structures, our policies, the way we do business, to embrace these new mindsets? Well, you know what? I'm a big fan of learning through experience and learning from experts. And I am ecstatic to tell you that today we have with us a woman who is leading this change in one of the oldest, traditionally structured, very successful, large corporations of the world. Please join me in welcoming the Chief Knowledge Officer of Aon Corporation, Neeru Arora. You're welcome.
Thank you, everyone. I'm really honored to be here today. Today I'm going to talk about two things, maybe spend a minute to tell you a little bit about Aon. There we go. And then talk about the journey that we've been on for the last 4 years in shaping our talent agenda, which of course includes millennials. So first, a little bit about Aon. We are an industry-leading professional services firm focused on two of the biggest business issues facing our clients today, which are risk and people. So we like to think of ourselves as we're in the business of risk and people. We are number one advisor on risk solutions. We are number one in brokerage, reinsurance, and captive management. We work with our clients on their business needs on traditional risks such as property, casualty, as well as non-traditional risks that are facing us today, such as cyber liability, cyber risk, credit risk, intellectual property risks. On the people side, we like to think we work on things that are important to millennials on three things. We think about health, talent, retirement. We are number one in business benefits. In benefits administration, we're number one in HR BPO, and we have a leading HR consulting practice. So that's about Aon. Our bold mission, which is empowering economic and human possibilities, it is something that we've been talking about for the last 12 months. That is our bold mission. And we work towards that mission every day by doing three things. We have three strategic priorities which we talk about at Aon. One is about delivering distinct client values to our clients. Second is obviously we have to focus on our operating margins. We talk about operational excellence. And the third one is unmatched talent, which is all about our talent journey. And that's where I'm going to focus most of our time. So as I said, we are a leading professional services advisory firm. So it is very clear to us, talent is, our people are our key asset. So we focus on talent a lot. And that focus got really amplified for us in 2010 when we did our first ever engagement survey globally with our 65,000 colleagues. And we asked them, what were their perceptions of Aon? What can Aon do better? And we obviously do this sort of thing with our clients as well. But internally at Aon, our colleagues told us they wanted to do three things on the left-hand side, and I'm going to get to the right-hand side in a second. So in 2010, they said they wanted improved learning and development. They wanted some structure around performance management, Andy. And we're a firm of 65,000 people in over 100 countries. They wanted improved knowledge sharing, which is what I am leading, which is more about, how do I tap into the global expertise of Aon to deliver the best of Aon to my clients locally? How do I get into the knowledge and people, and how do I collaborate with others? So, we do this engagement survey every year. We're not in the top quartile yet. So, every year we do it, and we kind of move the needle by a couple of percentage points. And this year, Greg Case put a challenge to us in saying, how can we get to the top quartile by 2015? So we really scratched our heads and studied the data that we had gotten internally. We study, obviously, the other leading companies that are performing in top quartile. And we also studied the companies that had made like that 20% leap into getting from 50 to 70. What were they doing right? And what we learned from this was that what they were doing right is what's on the right-hand side, and two additional things we have introduced into our talent agenda this year. One is about engaged leader. This engagement is not an HR thing. People are looking for, the research shows that our impressions of a firm, our impressions as a colleague at Aon are first and foremost made by the managers that we work for, the leaders that we work for. So we've put a lot of focus in how do we engage our leaders? How do we train our leaders to be more engaged leader? How can they have authentic conversations with their team? And we're holding them accountable for managing the talent that works for them. So they're responsible for the engagement of their teams. Then the second thing we did was, we talked here at the conference about people want to work for a higher cost. So we started to look at what makes our colleagues stay at Aon? What makes them do their best at Aon? What makes them strive to do their best work for our colleagues, communities, and our clients? And actually, after 3 years of survey data, a lot of internal research, external research with our talent consultants, these are the 4 things our colleagues said. And we are actually, structuring our entire talent agenda, our journey, our conversations around these 4 themes now. So our colleagues they said they want to make impact. They want to have impact every day by delivering, unparalleled values to their clients, to their community. They want to work with colleagues to, innovate and develop solutions. Second, they said they're looking for opportunities. They want to work for the best people. They want guidance from their managers. They want coaching and development. Third thing they said, they want to work with the best. So that means they want to collaborate and inspire each other every day, whether it's about empowering, again, results for our colleagues, clients, or our communities. And they want to take pride in their work. They're really focused on excellence. And the fourth is they want support. So whether it's millennials, it's more of everybody. Colleagues want to work in an environment that is supported, where their contributions are recognized, and they're valued, right? So those are the 4 things. And at Aon, there's a lot of focus going on around these 4 things. And we're actually putting our managers through training on how to have this conversation with your colleagues. Because we know from the survey results there are pockets where we do this really well, and we need to learn from them and replicate that in areas where we're not doing so well, right? So I'm going to sort of end our Aon's journey by just sharing some of these stories. So we're having workshops. Earlier this summer we had an Empower Results Day, which was about community service. But we talked about Empower Results in the context of community, clients, and colleagues. And I just want to share some quotes with you, which will tie into some of the themes that Andy talked about and others talked about. So you can just see the first one comes from our purpose at Aon, is to enable people to take risk and be protected in adverse events, right? It's about, the client service as to how we're serving our client in terms of managing the risk. Second one is, again, these are just samples from our sessions that we've been having. This colleague actually wanted an opportunity. So the opportunity to work, establish their own team. This was stretching their own limit. They're looking for that extra thing that they can do to stretch their comfort zone, right? The third one, I know this one is a millennial personally. They just want to work with a company that works for the greater good. So, I should know this number, but I know we spend millions of hours in our community service day. We have a huge CSR initiative at Aon as well. And then I'll sum up, my session with a quote from Greg Case, which is really about our people, collaboration, teamwork, and working together. And he basically, this is his mantra, and I live by it every day, and that's what inspires me to stay at Aon. He says, when we work together, we win. And being Aon United enables us to empower results, right? So, and I'm sure you will see it in Marketplace. We talk about Empower. There's a whole Empower Results campaign for us in the context of colleagues, clients, and communities. So on that note, thank you for your time, and thank you for giving me the opportunity.
Thank you very much. So we have a few questions we've lined up for Neeru. Neeru, would you like to join me at the table and sit down? Sure. We'll get a discussion going, and then, of course, we'll take questions from the audience if we have time. For those who are monitoring this situation, I believe we have 15 minutes left. If not, you can drag us out.
I was on time.
No? We have 10?
Yes, between 5 and 10, yes.
We have 5 and 10. We'll speak quickly. Okay. So excellent insight. I mean, you are in a seemingly difficult situation where this is a very successful, very established, and comes from a traditional background company. And yet you are making changes to attract and retain millennial talent. Mm-hmm. What have been some of the biggest challenges you've run into, either starting or getting to where you are now?
So, first of all, talent, like I said, is a huge focus. It is part of our 3 strategic imperatives. Mm-hmm. So we are acutely focused on attracting and retaining talent, right? So at Aon, we have campus recruiting initiative. We have a campus recruiting team. We recruit about 500 millennials a year here in the U.S., and the number is probably a lot higher when we go around the globe. I don't think we have challenges. I think about once we get them, how do we keep them engaged, and how do we nurture and grow them? So we have actually a program called the Launch Program, where we recruit kids that come out of the millennials, the colleagues that come out of college into the corporate life. The whole program is structured, and it does 3 things for them. It's structured in giving them the basic skills they need to move from, sort of campus to corporate life, whether it's about, presentation skills, communication skills, financial data analytics skills, right. So we do that. In that program, we also start mentoring and coaching them early on. Most of them are assigned a mentor, and those who are not, sort of outgoing, we assign one to them. They can find their own. And in that, they also get exposure to our leadership very early on in the organization, and their peer network, right? So the launch class meets a couple times a year. They have all these web access, conference calls. They have to go through a particular curriculum. Where they're building their peer network, not just within the unit that they're working in, but within, the other 500 friends that they're making as to where they're working in. So for them, we have really sort of created this program, and we graduate them, class of 2014. Right. So just going into it, they've got a network that they can tap into and grow with.
I think there are a few important keys here. A lot of companies talk about, hey, we're going to be millennial friendly, but they don't invest the time up front. And I believe the credit goes to Niru and to Aon for saying, we're going to put the infrastructure in place. We're not just going to talk to our managers about it. We're not just going to talk to our recruiters. We're actually going to put the training in place. We're going to put the mentoring in place. We're going to put the peer networks in place. Very critical. So as you've gone through this process, I suspect there were some cynics and some people that might have thought this might not be the right thing to do. What were some of the unintended, really positive outcomes you've heard expressed, either from management or the millennials themselves?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think the greatest thing that we see is as our managers go to the universities, to interview the next class, we talk about engagement. The older ones, like me, I always come back more engaged after, visiting Northwestern or OSU or whatever your alma mater is, right? We come back more energized because the stuff that's happening in campuses today around innovation, how they're, working remotely, how they're doing e-learning, all of that is really fascinating if you haven't been in campus life.
Right.
So I think we actually improve our engagement, just our managers experiencing that. And then me personally, as you said, I am working in the space of collaboration, content and search and whatever, what my executive committee calls I am modernizing Aon, or I'm making Aon more contemporary. Right. I'm actually counting on them to move our 150-year-old culture into more of the, when I say take a leap into the 20th century, if not the 21st century.
Yeah.
So I am counting on them. And they're actually being very helpful. I'll tell you a joke. I think I go talk about knowledge sharing to our launch class. I just did that a couple of weeks ago. There I was talking about, we have profiles for 40,000 of our colleagues. I swear to God, they were looking at me like I had horn on my head. They were looking at me like, so what? It should be there. We all have a LinkedIn account, a Facebook account. What's the big deal to have a corporate profile? But yet, we've been at it for 4 years, trying to get colleagues to fill their profiles. Can you share some information?
Right.
So they're actually helping us innovate and lead Aon forward into the 21st century.
So perfect segue. This whole pivot thing, this is a technology conference. We haven't said anything about technology. How important is the technology inside your company to attracting and retaining these individuals?
I do technology. I'm a forward technology strategist.
Right.
I don't think it is important for the millennials that technology is operational and it's there and it's functional, because they're used to seeing it in their private life, right? I don't believe it is the reason why they stay or why they join a company. We all been, just because I've implemented Yammer or I've done SharePoint or done other things, I don't think that's exciting. It just basically, when we go to campuses and we tell them we're doing this, it definitely excites them that we've got the plumbing right. But why they're going to stay at Aon is, have they got the right opportunity to make an impact, in what they're going to be doing in their job roles and responsibilities? Do they like what they do? Do they see upward mobility? I think it's really about, are we leveraging their talent appropriately? Do they have work flexibility? Mobility is really important to the millennials. So I think they join us for what impact they can have using their academic background and their experiences, more than, are we giving Macs and iPads on the entry day? Right.
So we can think of technology as an entry point. It's necessary, it needs to be there, it is normal, but it's not the only reason they join or they stay. It's more about the culture and the process and being enabled.
Absolutely.
Okay.
They expect technology to be there.
Yeah.
I don't think it is the 1990 when, most important people got the computers, right? Yeah. They expect things to be there. I don't know how to say it. I think we moved a generation now where it's a core plumbing.
Absolutely. Last question. It's just you and me standing between this group and coffee. Last question. Here we go.
Make it fast.
Yeah. For those people who are starting on this journey, large or small corporation, try traditional corporation, what is your recommendation for them for a first step? How to get started in this process of transforming where you currently are to a company that is exciting and inviting and will maintain and retain millennial talent?
Yeah, so I would say for us, we're successful because I just said our talent agenda is linked to our 3 strategic priorities, right? So I think everybody has to find their own journey based on their business priorities.
Okay.
So I would just say you've got to, think back, what is our business priority? What are we trying to do? How are we trying to grow? And what sort of talent agenda you need to have for that. Does that make sense? And then whatever you do, just make sure, for me, I know I'm successful. I often joke internally at Aon, the knowledge sharing and the talent agenda is successful because Greg makes it our priority. Driving engagement is in his objectives to the board, it is in my objective, and it is in everybody else's objectives. We're taking it very seriously.
Right.
So if you're going to go after this, whatever you do, be the best at it and take it seriously is my advice.
So make sure that you link your transformation strategy to business objectives.
Absolutely.
Make sure you have a leader in place that supports you in this process.
And walk the talk.
And yes, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you take a stand like Niru has and be the change, be the transformation. That's why we come to Pivot. Ladies and gentlemen, Niru Arora, Chief Knowledge Officer of the Aon Corporation.